We spent hours scrubbing what looked like archaeological muck from this once nice $1,600 Trek 2.3 Alpha. This frame went from a filthy, nasty, dirty nightmare to a polished surface. But the real question is, will these cleaned components work? Or did the neglect permanently ruin this Trek 2.3? We're starting at the back. First up is the rear derailleur. It's hard to believe that this was the filthiest part of the bike, but seeing it back on the hanger, shiny and ready, is deeply satisfying. Next, we move to the center of the bike at the bottom bracket. We first start with some fresh grease on the threads. Screwing the clean cups in is simple now. I'll first do the drive side, followed by the non-drive side. Finally, we snug them down with our bottom bracket tool. And now for the crank arms. I first apply some fresh grease and slide the drive side through the fresh bottom bracket. Now, on to the non-drive side. I align the crank arm and slide it onto the spline. Next, I screw the preload cap into place, seating everything nice and tight. It's now time to tighten the pinch bolts that secure the crank arm. I'm careful not to over-tighten them and finish off with my torque wrench. The front derailleur goes on next. Setting the height and angle correctly now will save us headaches later. It's amazing what a little cleaning and attention to detail can do for basic component setup. Now it's time to install the cleaned cassette and cogs onto the hub. First things first, I'll apply a thin coating of grease on the free body to prevent the cassette from seizing in the future. Next, we'll slide the cogs on one at a time, aligning them with the splines. Lastly, I'll screw on the lock ring and snug it down nice and tight. With the cassette installed, the rear wheel can return to its home at the back of the bike. I'll align and slide the wheel through the rear dropouts, then tighten the quick release skewer. Now this is starting to look like a bicycle again. Remember that floppy, disgusting chain? It's now being replaced with new hardware. A new, correctly sized chain goes on to complete the heart of the drivetrain. To size the chain, I stretch it out on the little cog in back and small ring up front. The rear derailleur should just clear the cassette. After cutting the chain off camera, I connect it back together with a quick link. Once the chain is connected, I can turn a crank arm and manually manipulate the rear derailleur to fully test its range of motion. Now it's time to give this bike its cockpit back. I first apply grease to the bearing cups and then insert the sealed bearings back into their happy homes. Next, we slide the fork back into the head tube, install the spacers, and finally slide the stem and handlebars onto the steer tube. Now I tighten the top cap to set the preload on the bearings, and we apply the final torque using my torque wrench to make sure those stem bolts are secure. We don't want any unwanted movement when trying to steer this bike. We're getting close to make the bike shift, and I'll need something to hold on to while I turn the cranks. I found these nylon pedals in my parts bin, and they'll certainly do the job. You can see here, I threaded new shift and brake cables through the controls on this road bike. I found the cable housings were in decent shape, so I'll reuse those after I apply some lubricant. Next, I'll thread the cable through and route things towards the rear of the bike. Now I'll thread the shift cable through the last piece of housing and connect it to the anchor bolt. After a few tweaks to the cable tension, the rear derailleur does its job and we can cycle through all the gears. It's the same story for the front derailleur. I'll first lubricate the cable housing, thread the shift cable through, and route everything towards the front derailleur. Once there, I'll attach the shift cable to the anchor bolt, and after a few tweaks to the cable tension, the bike shifts between the two chain rings. It's satisfying to get the drivetrain in working order. With the drivetrain dialed in, it's time to install the brakes. We'll start in the rear and attach the caliper. I'll take care to center the brake pads between the wheel. Next, we'll move to the front of the bike. It's the same story here. Slide the caliper in place, making sure it's centered, and finally tightening it down securely. With the calipers installed, it's time to cable them up. We'll start by unwinding the newly installed brake cable for the rear caliper and route things towards the rear of the bike. Once at the rear of the bike, it's just a matter of threading the cable through the caliper and the anchor bolt and tightening everything down. While doing this, I squeeze the pads inward to get the brake feel just right. After my initial test, the tension needs one last tweak. A few turns of the barrel adjuster should make things feel better. There it is, the brake feel I wanted. We're all set. Now on to the front. We'll start by uncoiling the new brake cable and threading it through the caliper and anchor bolt. I'll squeeze the brake pads together slightly to get the feel just right and tighten the brake cable down nice and tight. With the front wheel now installed, it's time to test. Again, I'll make a few turns of the barrel adjuster to get the tension just right. And there we have it. Nice even brake feel and stopping power. This bike is almost done. While I install the bar tape, let's admire the amazing transformation. This bike has come a long way from its filthy, grimy beginnings when I first saw it. If you made it this far, you're a true champion. If you enjoyed this video, show that thumbs up button some love and subscribe for more bicycle restoration content.